So, what if I told you that one of the most powerful, highest earning skills in the entire modern economy isn't about code, or data, or AI, but it's actually one of the oldest human traditions that exists? Yeah, I'm talking about a skill that our ancestors used around campfires, and it's now generating millions for people working right from their homes. So, what is this ancient skill, and how on earth is it shaping our world today? Let's dive in. Okay, so we're talking about the world of high-ticket sales, a world of premium products, remote work, and for some, a truly life-changing income. But what's the one thing, the one skill that separates the top earners from literally everyone else? What's the real engine driving this massive industry? To get a sense of just how big we're talking, take a look at this. This comes from Chad Leo's book, The Book on High-Ticket Sales. Now, the e-learning market, which is a huge part of this industry, was already worth over $300 billion back in 2021. But the truly mind-blowing number is the projection. It's set to grow to $1 trillion globally by 2028. We're in the middle of a massive economic shift right now. Now, I know what you're thinking. $1 trillion. That's just a huge, abstract number. So let's make it a little more personal. This quote is from the book's foreword, and it's from CEO Chandler Bolt, talking about the author, Chad Aleo. Over $2 million in a single year in personal sales. That's the kind of power we're talking about with this one. So what is it? What's the secret sauce that lets someone wake up, take calls that are already booked solid on their calendar, and pull in that kind of money without ever having to make a single cold call? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. The $1 million skill is storytelling. That's it. It's an art form that is literally older than writing itself, a totally fundamental part of what makes us human. And to really get why it's so incredibly powerful in business today, we have to go back and understand where it came from. Let's start with a really clear definition, right from the source. See, storytelling isn't just about a good yarn or entertainment. Look at the other key functions here: education, cultural preservation, and this is the one that's crucial for us, instilling moral values. It's really all about conveying meaning. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. We have always been doing this, from rock art that helped a storyteller remember the flow of a tale, to the great myths of antiquity, to the printing press, and right up to today in the digital age. The technology keeps changing, but our basic, fundamental need to make sense of the world through a narrative, that hasn't changed one bit. All right, so how do we connect the dots from ancient myths to modern-day sales calls? Well, let's open up the playbook and see exactly how these timeless principles are being used right now to drive that trillion-dollar industry we talked about. Here's the thing. The first principle, according to Chad Leo's book, isn't really a sales tactic at all. It's the first rule of good storytelling. Before you do anything else, you have to get crystal clear on one thing: the why. Just like any character in a story, what's the deep-down motivation for going on this journey? And here is how you actually do it. This exercise from the book is all about peeling back the onion, getting past the surface-level answers until you hit what Aleo calls the root. And notice how this ties right back to that definition of storytelling. It's a hands-on way of instilling values by first figuring out what those core values even are. This right here, this is the emotional heart of any good story. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. This looks like a pretty standard marketing funnel, right? You've got an ad that leads to a landing page, which leads to a call, and then hopefully a sale. But what if we look at it not as a funnel, but as a kind of narrative map? And boom, this is where it all just clicks into place. Pretty much every great story, as the source material points out, has a 3-act structure. You have the setup, where we see the hero's ordinary world, then the confrontation, where that world gets turned upside down, and finally the resolution, where the hero is transformed. Well, just look at how perfectly the sales funnel maps onto that. The ad is the setup, the strategy call is the confrontation with a problem, and the sale is the resolution, the transformation. It's the hero's journey, just repackaged for the 21st century. So we've seen the what and the how, but let's talk about the why. Why is this structure so unbelievably effective? Well, the answer is buried deep in our own psychology, in the very way our brains are wired. Just check out this parallel. On the left, we've got principles of learning from indigenous cultures, drawn right from our source. And on the right, principles of high-ticket sales. Listening to elders, that becomes learning from a mentor. Finding underlying metaphors, that's about understanding the prospect's why. And shaping identity, that's inspiring them to invest in themselves. It is the exact same human process of guided transformation, just told through a different narrative. And if you want the science, here's the neuroscience to back it all up. Research shows that when we're just given data or facts, only the language parts of our brain really light up. But when we hear a story, our brain activates all the regions we would use if we were actually experiencing those events ourselves. It's why stories are so much more memorable and way more persuasive than a simple list of facts could ever hope to be. And the big takeaway here is that this isn't just about sales, not even close. As our sources show, this same power is used in therapy to help people heal, in the workplace to lead and shape culture, in marketing to build amazing brands, and in education to pass on our values. Mastering narrative is truly a universal skill for communication and connection. So, we've gone on this whole journey, from ancient rock art all the way to the neuroscience of persuasion, just to understand one fundamental human truth. And all of that brings us to the final, and I think most important question. I want to leave you with this really powerful quote from the writer Reynolds Price. "The sound of story is the dominant sound of our lives." Just think about that. From the small stories we tell about our day to the grand narratives that shape our cultures and our dreams, we are, at our very core, storytelling creatures. Whether it's in your career, in your family, or just the one you tell yourself, you are constantly building a narrative. Understanding the structure and the power of that narrative isn't just a business skill, it's a life skill. So the only real question left is, what story are you telling?